So my story starts on October 2nd, 2015. It started around 6 a.m. and my water broke. We got to the hospital. I got into triage. They admitted me and everything was what I said it was. My water broke and everything. So I was in my room, admitted, everything was good by 8 a.m. So by 7 p.m. that night, I still was in the same predicament. I was not in pain, that I was not contracting. I still was really little dilated, so I was maybe 1 or 2 centimeters, maybe 3. By that time, I was not progressing a lot. So me and my doctor decided to start the medication Pitocin. Pitocin, it will put your body into labor. And so that's what we did. So Pitocin does work. So by 12 o'clock, I was in active labor. I was contracting every couple of minutes. And the contractions were coming hard and fast. We delivered the baby at 9:10 a.m. on October 3rd, 2015. My baby girl, Layla, came into the world. One of the best things that has ever happened to me. I love my firstborn. She is a force to be reckoned with. But after Layla was born, immediately after, that is when things went left. I started bleeding uncontrollably, and there were residents. A lot of residents started coming in. So the attending came in, and at this point, I knew something was really wrong. My daughter was delivered at 9:10, and I still had not held her by 9:30. And something was wrong. They would not tell me, or at the time my husband, what was going on. They just kept saying, it was a little blood and, they just needed to get it cleaned up. But obviously that's not true because one doctor can do that. 2 doctors maybe, but it's 6 or 7 doctors in this room. That's not what's going on. And I think looking back on it, they just didn't want us to worry. We were a really young couple. This is my first baby. And I think if I had gone into shock or into, really like stress, it might have made the situation worse. So they kind of tried to keep us both calm. And so I think that's why they downplayed what was going on. So I was bleeding a lot. One of the residents before the attending came in tried to get my placenta out. And I don't know if she didn't know what she was doing or she really wasn't that good at it, but she kept grabbing little chunks. And I'm trying not to do TMI, but it's birth. She kept bringing it out little by little. Your placenta is supposed to come out one big sweep, and that's not what happened. And it hurt. Mind you, just a little side note, I had just gotten an epidural at like 8:30. So it hadn't been that long since I had just gotten the epidural. So for me to feel pain like that, I don't know what that was because I didn't feel anything. The only thing I felt was my child coming out. So I didn't even feel contractions anymore. So I was like, why am I feeling this? And it was very, very painful. But when the attending doctor came in, asked her to excuse herself from the bedside, and he stepped in and he got everything out and everything. He calmed everybody down, and felt this sense of like relief in the room. Like, okay. And till that point, they kept saying it was, just a little bleeding. And my husband at the time goes, that can't be right, because why would all these doctors be needed for just a little bleeding? Like, why do you guys keep saying that? What happened? And, it was just a little, blood clot or whatever. And everybody was like, well, she's okay now. So, let's just get her to the room, let her get cleaned up and da-da-da-da. And so we just kind of went along with it and everything. And so that my at the time they kept checking me about every hour for bleeding. Anything weird, too much. They kept checking and checking and checking literally every hour on the hour. And the nurse was in my room, how heavy I was bleeding. And they kept monitoring my bleeding. Okay, so I took iron pills. I'm just thinking I just lost a little too much blood, and that was that. It was something really small, wasn't that big of a deal. So I went home with my healthy, happy baby, and we were good. Fast forward to 2018, I got pregnant again with my second daughter, Talia. And of course, like anybody else does, you call your OB. I'm in a new town, so I had to find a new doctor. I love my OBGYN up here. They're amazing. But I needed to see a specialist because, like the first time, I had gestational diabetes again. So I had to go see a specialist. The specialist was really good about everything. And I actually ended up seeing him more than I did my OB because he had to keep track of my sugars and stuff like that. He wanted to know what happened to my last birth. How did my last birth go? The closer we got to the delivery date of Talia. So I gave him my last OB's information and everything, and he said, "I thought you said your birth went good." And I said, "Yeah, it did. Whatever. We had a little hiccup at the end there," but he said, "That wasn't a little hiccup. You had a postpartum hemorrhage." And I said, "What is that?" I had never even heard of that before. I knew what a hemorrhage was, but I never heard of postpartum hemorrhage. What is that? And when he explained it to me, I got instantly scared, and I said, "Is that what women die from?" And he said that's a very common cause of why women pass away during childbirth. And it started to scare me, and it also made me a little upset because I didn't understand why nobody at my previous daughter's birth told me, "You just had a postpartum hemorrhage," or "This is what happened to you." They downplayed it. They made it seem like it wasn't that big of a deal, but it really was. So with my second daughter, almost the entire pregnancy, I had a bad feeling of what will happen if I die, what's going to happen if, I'm not here to raise my daughter, what if I don't meet her, and stuff like that. This time, because I knew going in what I needed my doctor to do, my doctor knew what he was walking into. They had things prepared if I were to go into a postpartum hemorrhage again. They knew my risks of having it because I had it the first time and things like that. So this time I felt a little better because we weren't going in blind. I ended up not having a postpartum hemorrhage with Talia, but I was very scared my entire pregnancy. So it's important, I think, to support the blanket change cause by March of Dimes, because this is a problem that is going on every day. 2 women every day die from giving childbirth, and that's a really high number for a country as developed as ours. And it's an important issue because not everybody gets a happy ending. I was blessed and lucky enough to walk away with my babies, with my life, without anything, crazy happening. But that's not everybody's case. I think people need to bring awareness to what's going on and how common it actually is for things to go left during childbirth. And I think once we start to have the conversation and we start to acknowledge that this is going on a little too much, it's not once in the blue. This is happening every day.